morning, docents. Jody Brown and I are at Kristin Casaletto's home and studio. And that name, Kristin Casaletto, may ring a bell with you. Kristin joined the docent family in 2019. So she's a docent, a very accomplished artist. She's been an educator. Currently, she's a full-time artist. Her work has been displayed throughout the U.S. She spent 19 years in the South, and also she has shown internationally. And as we have visited her this morning, she's got upcoming exhibitions. She just got accepted into a gallery in New York and is very excited about that. She's a printmaker, of course, because our topic today is prints. And so this is going to be from the artist's mouth, kind of the steps involved in 5 different kinds of printmaking. So before we move on to Kristin's printmaking skills, hanging here is a beautiful, colorful oil painting. So she has wonderful painting skills as well. This is called Fourth Day of Creation. So Kristin, I understand that you are from Grand Rapids. I know you have family here, but you were down south for 19 years. So tell us a little bit about how you, where you grew up and yeah, how you ended up being an artist and educator down there.
Actually, I'm one of those people who moved around a lot, and I was born in Ohio, and then my family moved like every other year, until I left for college. So really, I guess I've lived, I counted them up, I guess I've lived in 9 states plus Washington, D.C., and then 2 years abroad, mostly in Italy. So I did live as a child in Grand Rapids a little bit. After New York, Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, blah, blah, and then Grand Rapids for a time, and then out again, and then after I got my education finished, I got a job down south, first in Mississippi for a year at a university in Georgia, at Augusta University in Augusta, Georgia. And then I was there for 18 years there, and then I decided that was good, but it was time to be free and be an artist. And then I thought it would be really great to be by my family, and Grand Rapids seems cool, and it has changed a lot since I was a kid, and it's affordable, and I don't know, I really want to be by my family and maybe be back in the Midwest, and so I came here.
So tell us about the early beginnings. Did you always love art? Were you always artistic? How did your art journey start?
I guess I always just thought everyone was an artist naturally. It was around me in the home. My dad is quite an accomplished self-taught artist. And so I grew up drawing and playing around. My family's pretty creative and wacky. But I didn't take art seriously as any kind of profession or centering thing until quite a bit later. I always drew, and I guess when I went off to college, that spurs a decision, what are you going to major in? And I just thought, well, I don't know, how do you explain the universe? Maybe art, maybe science. So I just majored in both, and I was going to drop one to a minor when I figured out what was more fun. But I just kept both majors, actually. So I majored in drawing, the mother lode of all arts, and physics, which I considered the mother of all sciences. And then I kind of got serious about art from there on out.
So tell us, what influences you, what inspires you as an artist? You do large-scale prints, and obviously we see the painting behind you, which is fairly large scale. What motivates Kristin Casaletto?
Yeah, that's a big question. I guess a great many things, like most artists. I guess I have come more and more into issues of conscience. I think when I was playing with form and sort of philosophical ideas and so forth in graduate school, and then I moved to Mississippi for my first job out of grad school, and it was a real catalyst for my work because I encountered all this strange racial tension problems, and that really centered my work on that kind of thing, race and class, and the weight of history and how it's influencing us now. So I see my art as really contemporary, but it's about trying to process things in my mind that I can't seem to do in other ways. It's its own kind of language and way of thinking. And so for me, art says things I can't say, being a shy person. And it's my way of thinking through experiences and mourning, laughing, making snide comments, analyzing, so forth. So a lot of it's issues of conscience that I can't figure out how to deal with, really, and it helps me work it through.
So, Kristin, you spent many years as an educator. Talk to us about how you got into education and what you taught, and did any educational type experience affect your art in any way?
Sure, yeah, all of life affects art, but how did I get into teaching? I got my MFA after I finished out my education finally, and I applied for all sorts of jobs, including things like the FBI Art Theft Division and Interpol, and to be an art history travel agent who organized like art historical tours, and I applied to be like an adjunct professor and a professor, all sorts of things. The only thing that came through was professorhood. So that was fate, I guess. I mean, it wasn't like I thought or wanted to be or aimed to be a professor. It just ended up that way. And so then I got into adjunct professoring, and Nancy Klaus was one of the first people I worked with. That was before I had finished my education. I just had a master's at that time in art history, and I remember her fondly being helpful as I was trying to learn to teach. And then I went off and got my MFA and got like a real tenured job. And then, of course, I learned a lot. I mean, you have to learn a lot. Teaching art, I was head of printmaking, the printmaking area, for 12 years. And then I got peeled off into administration because I'm one of those organized artists. So for my sins, I had to be an administrator. I was the director of the interdisciplinary humanities program that was art, music, and literature team teaching, which was pretty cool, actually. And I taught in that the whole time I was teaching art too. And then I left being head of printmaking, and I taught more all the drawing and senior exhibition, like exit professionalism class and 2D design, whatever they had me do. And then as having access suddenly to presses and whatnot, I got an education in printmaking because my MFAs in painting, my BFAs in drawing, I had done sort of minor emphasis in print and knew the basics and liked it, but I thought I was interviewing for a painting job, and they said, great, now you're head of printmaking. And I went, all right, I can do that. So I got all these visiting artists in. I thought, I'm gonna give myself an MFA equivalent in print. And I just did a lot of print, spent a lot of time in the print shop, and got some of my favorite visiting artists in, and which is great for making connections and friends anyway. And so that influenced me a lot. And then the rhythms of being a professor, summers off, intensely busy during the year, the school year, you know, that made it hard to do things at scale. And I was getting more and more interested in large scale and more complexity of both media and concepts, and stuff that wasn't necessarily one thing that you put on a wall, but maybe something installed or connected to sound or whatever. And that stuff was getting slowed down because of my day job, so to speak. So gradually that kind of helped influence me to go, whereas now I can focus on some more complex things or large-scale things and just do it all day. Because something like that, I applied for an artist residency for the Apocalypse piece that was in the Little Docent show. I mean, I just couldn't get traction on it when I was trying to carve it for an hour between classes. and whatnot. And so finally I went on a residency, and there I just like 10 hours a day, and I was able to finish the design. And that was good, because then I could get it onto the boards, and then I could carve intermittently between classes. But I couldn't like get the overall continuity of the feeling and get my heart and brain and hands in the right place to get it out interrupted like that all the time. And so residencies have been really great for me. And now I have the luxury of like just focusing. So, but yeah, education was pretty influential to me, and all that humanities teaching too, like having to read the world's great wisdom literature and the Bhagavad Gita and the Bible and the Chaucer and all that stuff, Dante. I mean, those things have influenced me too.